direction. No, let's say it. What's the craziest thing you've ever done? Like, what's the most extreme sporty kind of thing? We could go that direction.
Why do you have to go with the extreme sporty? Okay, Susanna's going to nail this. I'll tell you.
No, I don't have anything
She's
extreme
gonna nail
sporty.
this. Oh, yes, you do. Compared to me.
I just run. That's it.
No,
There's nothing
that's extreme.
Okay, I'll tell you what I
that's
did.
true, yeah.
So Corey and I's 10th anniversary
Who's this?
trip. So this is my husband.
Oh,
we
Colby?
went up to Vail.
Corey.
Oh.
And so he planned a trip for us to go downhill mountain biking in Vail.
Which is
A terrible idea for
Scary.
someone that doesn't know how to work her gears. Remember from the last episode or whatever, didn't we talk about that? Like, don't speak Spanish to me on downshift, upshift, whatever the heck that is. So I go and so, we're on the gondola looking up at this place and I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm so scared to do this. And he's like, do you just want to be the girl that wears workout clothes, or do you want to actually do something? He's trying to motivate me. That doesn't motivate me. How you are motivated is not how I'm motivated. So I got down
My
there
motivation would be there's a massage
by the
waiting
skin
for
of
you.
my teeth. It was exact, and then there was.
Nice.
There was.
Imagine. So he's calling you out. This is what
Yeah.
I'm just trying to get this.
Yeah,
he's calling you out on the lift.
Yeah, I come. Yes, trying to
Shame you.
Well, but it was trying to that motivates
Yeah.
him. Ooh,
Yeah,
I'll show
excite.
you how good I am.
No, he's
and
trying to
I'll do
macho
no.
you. I
I'm
guess
not
speak the
that.
language. He's trying to macho you into
I
it.
come from
Yeah.
a family of 4
Which
girls.
makes
He
sense
comes
to me.
from a family of 4 boys.
Yes.
We are different. And so anyway, so I made it down alive, praise the Lord. But it was terrible. I will never want to do that again. And then I did, and I went over my handlebars.
Ooh.
Everybody goes over their handlebars. I don't know anybody who doesn't go over their
I
handlebars.
never did before because
What's
I
the
didn't even pop a curb growing up.
but
I've
the-
never
I
done
didn't
that in
either,
the night,
Sarah.
not in my whole life. And then where I am, downhill mountain biking in Vail.
But it's the brake. The brakes on those bikes, which I'm happy. I'm really happy that brakes on the bikes are good. But man, the brakes are so sensitive on those bikes. I'm riding along and all I see is the sun and the sunshine and leaves and stuff, and I'm over like sprawled out, spread eagle. You know what I mean?
Oh, I do.
Just because
I
of
know
the sensitivity of the brakes. My son, Jackson's like, what? I see him springing over to save me. It was this great thing. But yeah, I don't think people fall because of the mountains.
All because of
They fall because of me.
Stinking brakes.
They fall because of my ineptness.
And you're laying in the trail. So we need to steer around you. So, okay. So you run. That's crazy.
It's not there. I don't mountain bike. I don't
What about
paraglide.
like zip line or
I don't
anything
zip.
like that?
I mean, one or two zip lines. But if my feet can be on the ground, I'm good. I just do long distances.
Gotcha.
Yeah. I like to be in control. of my
I'd
steps.
rather someone else be in control. I trust them more than myself.
So you guys are totally different then, is what I hear you saying.
Yes.
Okay, completely different. So and
Well,
that's what makes
But we have a lot of similarities too.
as far as adventure. All right,
Okay, as far
we'll
as-
go
as far as
adventure and how we
adventure,
get
yes.
motivated for that.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so that's what we're going to talk about today. Not about adventure physically, but adventure inside and in the heart. My goodness gracious! So
Ooh, wow, that's deep.
This thing is going. We're going deep. This last episode was pretty deep. Now we're here in this next session, and we're really talking about noticing patterns in the people that we're drawn to. Oh my goodness! So there's something that happens in us and how we interact with the people around us. We talked about that. But then also there may be a profile on the other side of our relationships that we seek out
Yeah.
or that we happen to find ourselves with. This is not where we point the finger at other people. This is where we point the finger at us, I believe.
Yeah.
So Susanna's going to take us through noticing some of these patterns. Susanna, tell us a little bit about that.
Well, last time we talked about noticing patterns of behavior, becoming curious. You know, when you have those overwhelming emotions of anxiety or anger that sometimes some people lash out, some people shut down, but getting curious as to why. Why do I feel that way? And pausing long enough to ask those questions. But we also have to become curious about the kinds of people that we're drawn to. And what I mean by that is after doing work and moving towards insecure attachment from insecure, anxious attachment, I just started noticing this pattern in my life that so insecure, anxious attachment is sometimes your caretaker is there emotionally and sometimes they're not. And so you kind of live life with this, I'm not sure if you're going to be there or not. And so what's familiar, what's comfortable are people who are just a little bit out of reach. That feels safe because you're comfortable with learning how to chase after people, either through withdrawing. So they'll come and say, oh, what's wrong? Or through conflict, going after them and saying, why are you acting like that? Or what's wrong? Or is everything okay? So after noticing this or going through enough relationships like this, where I always felt like I was having to kind of chase these people down, I asked my counselor, Teresa Flanagan, who's so wise, I was like, why am I drawn to people who are just out of reach? And she said something so profound. She's like, we are drawn to what is familiar. She said, this is why people can be in Paris, the food capital of the world, and choose to go to McDonald's because it's familiar.
Wow.
And she said that to me months ago, and I have not stopped thinking about it since, but it just explained so much of my life. And even my relationship with my husband, Jason, at last episode, I referenced our broken engagement. He was always just a little bit out of reach. He dated people. I was the first person, he was 28 when we started dating. I was the first person he had ever dated who lived in the same city.
Interesting.
He preferred
long distance
to not be known. Oh, yeah. Avoidance, right? And so here's this person who's all in his business. And it was familiar for me to chase him down. Familiar to me, and it was familiar to him. And so God used that for healing for both of us. So if you're in a relationship with an avoidant person, don't throw in the towel or just walk away. He'll use it for healing. He can use it, but at some point you have to stop and say, what about me is drawn to someone who is just out of reach? And why? And that led me, my counselor also recommended reading a book called Safe People, How to Find Relationships That Are Good for You and Avoid Those That Aren't, by Dr. Henry Cloud and John Townsend, who wrote the book Boundaries.
Those guys, boundary guys. And so reading that was so profound. And I read this probably now going on 3-4 years ago, but first and foremost, I recognized about myself, I am not a safe person. You are probably not going to attract safe people if you're not a safe person. And that's the first work is, what do I need to do to become someone who is safe, who is stable, who is secure, who gives grace, who loves, and who has healthy boundaries. And then going, okay, what does a safe person look like? And purposefully moving towards those kind of people in your life and noticing maybe where or why you haven't in the past. And again, it doesn't mean ditch everyone who's not, right? I mean, praise God, Jason and I worked through those things, but it just means take time to pause and think through what are some recurring patterns in the kind of person I am and the kind of people I'm drawn to. Okay, so let me just pause this right there because this stuff is so rich. It's not that quicksand is rich, but it feels like you're walking through quicksand to try to really try to format the importance of what you exactly are saying about being a safe person. So I want to make sure that we're going slow enough because we said a lot of things here in just the last few minutes that I think could rock everybody's world about the people that we're drawn to. I want you to go talk about specifically safe person one more time, just so that we really are getting that. So I'm going to use a few of the characteristics that Townsend and Cloud talk about in their book. Yep. So the first, some of the characteristics are unsafe people think they have it all together instead of admitting their weaknesses. Unsafe people are defensive instead of being open to feedback. Unsafe people are self-righteous instead of humble. Unsafe people only apologize instead of changing their behavior. Unsafe people lie instead of telling the truth. And what I think that means really is that you lie about telling the truth about yourself, to yourself and other people. Who are you really? What is it like? I want you to ask yourself this and ask other people you trust. You only want to ask this to people who give grace, who know that they are broken and who have received grace and are willing to give it back.
You want to be in relationship. A safe person is someone who can say, I'm sorry. Not Satan made me do it, or my dog made me do it, yes. Or I was having a bad day. I am sorry. I'm owning what I did. Mm-hmm. I'm broken. And to be in relationship with somebody where both people know they're broken. It's never just one person, right? So a safe person is the one who can admit their part and then actually work on honesty, transparency, healing, and change. And it's crazy. The list starts getting real short, real fast. And we're not meant to have relationship like this with a ton of people. We can't. But with those few people who are willing to, who know who you are, but love you despite it, mm-hmm. and you know who they are, and you're committed to loving them despite it, that is a rare and precious gift.
So when you recognize patterns of unhealth, or not unhealth, but lack of safety in others,
yes.
there's a correlation possibly with, if you're continually attracted to unsafe people, what you're saying then is...
perhaps you're unsafe.
Man.
And I had to come to that realization about myself. And that's a hard realization. That's a bummer realization. If someone comes and confronts me on something I've done, do I say, my bad, I'm sorry? Do I really work on change? Do I give people grace? Or am I constantly holding people's faults up? Mm-hmm. And so it's really, and this is never like, and one day I woke up and I was safe. I mean,
right. We still are. Life is messy. People are messy.
Yes.
I am messy. Family is messy.
Yes.
Friendships can be messy.
Yes.
That's okay.
Which I think is a great place then to hear, because you guys are like in so many ways, but then you've got totally different backgrounds.
Yes.
So, I mean, just as we said at the beginning, just different.
Yes. Yes. So it
makes great podcasting.
Oh, well, good.
There it is. Yeah.
I was more of a personality of feeling the need to be the peacekeeper of my family. So I had some unsafe people that were under my roof. And I had a father that was an alcoholic, a stepfather that was an alcoholic, and a sister that was an alcoholic. And now they're all lovely people, mm-hmm. too. So it's like I don't want to paint them with that one broad stroke, but with alcoholism comes
uncertainty,
instability. Mm-hmm. And so there were unsafe people in my home. So mm-hmm. I, by the grace of God, craved safe people. Mm-hmm. And so I was actually drawn to safe friends and safe families because I craved that stability.
Yeah.
And so I'm thankful for that. And I mean, so many of my college friends are still some of my dearest friends, and I'm grateful for that. Mm-hmm. But what I recognized was I was almost unable to almost be around someone that was unsafe. I would be like red flagging and full of judgment probably. Oh, they are making some scary choices. and so it's like I almost didn't want to be. Mm-hmm. But now like I feel like God took me on a journey of being able to be around someone that is different and it not unravel me mm-hmm. or trigger me mm-hmm. to my past of what it looked like to grow up in some messiness.
Yeah. So let's profile just for a second. So the ideal type of person that you were at a young age drawn to, what are some attributes of that person when you say safe? Okay. Your friend's parents or whatever?
Yes. Well, I would say
Susannah.
Godly, but I would say just friendly, nice, not getting in fights. Like I even with my girls, I'm like, but are they nice every day?
So
asking people, I was like, and we would like just that we didn't have really conflict, to be honest.
Yeah, so there's no drama.
No drama.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like, and it was my sister, I remember one day, she was like, your friends are just so happy all the time. They're so happy to see everybody. So that is, I mean, yes.
Isn't that interesting how safety to you meant happy, no conflict? Safety to me, familiarity to me was there had to be some conflict in there.
Oh, yeah.
Isn't that interesting?
Now let's talk about the profile. Go deeper on that. I'm pointing my finger because that's good.
See, in conflict, that is triggering me. That is like conflict. Like that, I was very uncomfortable in conflict.
Yeah. And what's crazy is I am too, but that was normal in the household I grew up in. Yeah. And so, and what was hard is that on my mom's side of the family, both my grandparents were strong believers, but my grandfather was a trial lawyer and loved conflict. And so conversations around the dinner table were often theological and often involved an argument. So at a very young age, it was almost like Christianity became linked to conflict. That was familiar to me. And so I started having to unravel as an adult. Wait a second. What is truly biblical? What is healthy? What is righteous, meaning being right with God and right with others? And then what is just my sort of inherited, familiar behavior and the way I relate to people? And it's kind of mind-blowing, especially if you've grown up in a Christian home where things kind of become what's Christian and what's cultural, what's biblical and what's kind of just the way you were raised. And I say this in that my girls are going to have to do the same thing. Our home is we're a Christian home. We live based off the word of God and loving others, but we're sinners. And so this is the job really of every believer, especially if you grow up in a Christian home, which is crazy, is to say, wait, what about my behavior? What about my patterns in relating to people, the kinds of people I'm drawn to, how I form relationships and my patterns? What is truly righteous, biblical, wise and right, and what is not? What is cultural? What is based on generational sin? All those things, and which is why the book of Proverbs has become so life-giving and helpful for me in the past few years, because that talks about that what it really looks like to handle conflict in a healthy way. What does being a righteous person look like? What does safety really look like?
And when you're able to learn how to speak truth in a loving way,
yes,
and to not be afraid of it. I think that's what I had to also come to realize, was sometimes just being quiet or just trying to keep the peace, to not say anything that I really believed was unhealthy. Mm-hmm. And so that's where I came to being a true friend, is also sometimes speaking truth in love. Yeah. I mean, do I want to go to the doctor and not the doctor not tell me the true diagnosis out of fear of protecting my feelings? Mm-hmm. Is that a loving thing to do? No. Tell me the truth.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Tell me the truth, and then let's move forward.
Yeah.
So you would say that your personality was avoidant of conflict. You wanted, Susannah, you wanted to get in a brawl. I mean, that's the language that you spoke.
Get on the boxing gloves.
And maybe we're drawn to that. So those are the two things that you had to work through. Just to compare and contrast is mind-blowing to sit here and hear those perspectives in the thing. And really, you've got a perspective as the listener. You know what your household was like. You know what your relationship was like. You understand patterns that you see. And really, that's the challenge for all of us, to really recognize these patterns. Because when we do, it becomes a tool in our hands to understand the Lord better. Yes. It becomes a tool in our hands to understand ourselves and our relationships better. So we've come through some amazing tools here, and we're headed to our final tool in the next session, and that is pausing in prayer. That's going to be a fantastic one here on the next episode. Go ahead.
I want to just add one more thing. This world is unsafe.
Yeah.
And I thought that if I could just manage my circumstances well enough, perfect enough, then I could guarantee my environment to be safe. And what I've realized is it's never going to be. We live in a broken world.
Yeah.
We are going to get cut by the pieces.
Yeah.
This won't be our true home. This can be a wonderful place.
Yeah.
But we can be in an unsafe environment in this broken world and still have peace and hope
Yes.
and freedom here on earth in the brokenness, in the messiness.
Yes. And the goal cannot be, the primary goal cannot be, I'm going to become a safe person, or I'm just going to connect with safe people. Because like you said, we're all broken. The goal has to be, I am going to connect, come hell or high water, with a safe God.
Yes.
That's it. And he's always safe. The circumstances may not be, the people may not be, even in your very own home, but he is. And that's where we fall every single time. And it kind of goes back to that verse we talked about in the very first episode. Though the righteous fall 7 times, they rise, right? Resurrection. Yes. That's what our story is, because we have a safe, redemptive, restorative, good God.
Yes.
So great. So listener, you're hearing it just as I'm hearing it. It's amazing to be able to see these tools, the examples of this, this tool of being able to recognize patterns in others. Susannah, thank you for that. We're coming up on the final tool in this series, and that's pausing in prayer. So we're going to be talking about that in just a second. Listener, if you feel as though you are in a spot where everything is broken, if you feel that you're in a spot where you can't figure out who you are, what you're doing, where you're going, we encourage you to find a safe person to talk to, whether that's a counselor or a pastor or a friend. Get on their schedule, get in their world, shoot them a text this afternoon and say, really, let's chat and let's go deeper in this. I'm in the process of rebuilding my heart, and I want to hear from you about what you see. It's a big faith step, but we encourage you to be able to do that. Thanks so much for listening to this amazing time on Never for Nothing with Susannah Baker. We're headed to prayer here in our next episode.